Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Al, and as of this week, we got a fairly sizable update for the War Within beta, which includes a ton of class changes. Just the other week, we had a massive update for the class of Hunter, which has adjusted and revamped their class talent tree, as well as made several changes to the talents for Beast Mastery, Marksman, and Survival. However, this week the spec of Survival continues to get additional changes, with this melee hunter ugly duckling of a spec that doesn't really get a lot of attention or a lot of play becoming stronger and stronger week by week. And this set of changes helps amplify the general playstyle by 1, improving the overall feel of the spec when it comes to focus and resource generation, 2, offering some new talents in order to create even better synergies altogether, but also 3, trying to make the spec feel more whole by connecting a lot more talents and creating opportunities for a ton of builds, which got a lot of players actually quite excited for Survival. However, the question is, could the spec potentially survive the beta of War Within and then come out somehow on top as a respectable melee class going forward for World of Warcraft? As always, if you guys enjoy regular class updates like these, be sure to follow the channel. Otherwise, let's take a look at Survival Hunter yet again. So for the most part this week, we are going to be talking about Survival. There were a handful of other changes made to other Hunter specs, but for the most part, this is an update to juice up the melee Hunter spec, which honestly, at this point, I think you may want to put it on your radar as a potential main, or maybe at the very least an alt, just because Survival Hunter never has had like a very popular spotlight for over the last few expansions, ever since the spec went from range to a melee. Starting things off though, the Sentinel hero spec, which got a new icon, looks fantastic. It did get a couple of adjustments, some necessary ones. The spec itself is very passive, you don't have to interact with it whatsoever. It is strong, but it was doing a bit too much AoE damage, especially with its AoE talent of Symphonic Arsenal. This talent did a ton of damage, even though it was capped to 6 targets initially, so they kind of took the best part, the strongest part of Sentinel, and kind of just like nerfed it and body slammed it into the ground. Symphonic Arsenal damage reduced by 40% and the target cap reduced to 5 targets. From a dungeon that I ran, and we actually got to do a couple of apparently Mythic Plus dungeons were available for a little bit of testing, even though we were not supposed to, but we snuck our way in there and we got to test it. And yeah, Symphonic Arsenal damage has been heavily reduced. That being said, however, this may not be the worst thing in the world from perspective of, well, you don't want the hero specs all to, just for everybody to be playing Sentinel. You want to have Sentinel and Pack Leader be a little bit more even with one another. And this adjustment takes the strongest part of Sentinel and kind of compresses it, but does make it a little bit more even with Pack Leader. And at the end of the day, I think we would want to be able to have the choice of which hero spec we play instead of being forced to play the strongest one. So if this is the means of balancing them out a little bit to make them a little more even, then I guess certain things do need to be cut up to pieces, but Lunarstorm still does a lot of damage. The Sentinel ability itself does a ton of damage all on its own, and Symphonic Arsenal simply just adds you a bit of extra cleave, but you can see just the Sentinel and Lunarstorm by themselves in AoE do fairly well as an overall dungeon damage. As for Beast Mastery, there were only a handful of adjustments. Primarily, it was a little bit of a structuring of a few talents within their positionals over in the rows. Like Thrill of the Hunt, for example, the ability itself now properly stacked up to 3 times. Prior to this, it wasn't really functional. War Orders now properly grants 50% chance to reset the cooldown of Kill Command, which wasn't as functional before. The positional of Wild Call and Hunter Spray have been adjusted so that a Wild Call can go into some of the other pet-specific talents. Otherwise, abilities such as Kill Command have been buffed by 8%, and the Dire Beasts that you summon, their damage has been buffed by 10, and now they're granted 20 focus, which overall is just a little bit of improvements and mostly like tuning and stuff for Beast Mastery specifically. Now for Survival specifically, we got some exciting updates. The first one you're going to be happy about is certain talents now becoming baseline for the spec of Survival. You will notice off the side of the talent tree, we're missing a talent point on the right hand side and on the left hand side. Those two, or rather something that was here before with terms of engagement, which got to move up a little, those have become baseline. So things such as Harpoon is now a baseline talent, which, like, of course it should have probably been from the get-go, right? Another one that also has been made baseline as well is the talent of Aspect of the Eagle. So if you need a little bit more of that range with Aspect of the Eagle, you can now utilize that in order to get yourself some range damage out. Aspect of the Eagle also helps out with your new mastery, which gives you a little bit of a damage buff window if you and your pet are close together. However, if you're further away than 25 yards, you do start to lose out on this buff. There's a little bit of a leeway right now where if you do get too far away from the pet, you actually can still maintain this benefit for a little bit, but it gives you like a moment to be able to move closer to your pet. Though if you use the ability of Aspect of the Eagle, it actually increases that range between you and your pet and the mastery benefit. So if you are separated from your pet for any reason, you can just pop off Aspect of the Eagle, you can still retain the full value with the pet, so it gives you a little bit more utility. Basically, both the talents of Harpoon and Aspect of the Eagle would have only been taken if you needed them for a gap closer or a way to reach the target. Otherwise, they're nice utility stuff that isn't going to be replacing some of your more combat ready talents. So giving them baseline to survival, I think, is a fantastic step forward. Another thing to try to solve with Survival Hunter is the issue of focus. Right now, survival generates way too much focus way too quickly. With the abilities such as your Flank and Strike generating focus, your Kill Command generating focus, Wildfire Bombs initially not costing any focus, and you even have abilities such as, if I could find it right here really quickly, Longest Bite and Raptor Strike have a 50% chance to reset the Kill Command's cooldown, which again just allows you to swim in focus. This made it a lot harder for survival to play around with their main primary stat or primary resource of focus. You want to be able to spend it as efficiently as possible, and then you need to be able to build it with Kill Command. Kill Command is an ability that kind of took more of a backseat, even though they're really trying to integrate it more into the Hunter playstyle with Tip of the Spear, as well as Flanker's Advantage, which buff your next ability after you use a couple of Kill Commands. So you are meant to Kill Command to regenerate focus, spend that focus that is going to be buffed up by Kill Command. Then you Kill Command to build up the focus as well as build up a damage buff, and then deal more damage afterwards. But you were just swimming in focus and you couldn't get rid of it fast enough that it was just really difficult to even press Kill Command at times. And this got even worse for Pack Leader, which plays around you being able to hit Kill Command as aggressively as possible. But if you're just capped on focus the entire time, it's fairly difficult to even spec into Pack Leader. So they've adjusted Survival Hunter where your Kill Command is now your only ability that allows you to regenerate focus. Well, maybe except like Dutch Chakram that also can give you focus as well, but Kill Command right now is the only source of focus generation. Every other ability now spends focus, from your Raptor Strike, which is a new, your Explosive Shot, which is not new, Butchery, that is a new, but now Wildfire Bomb does spend 10 focus. It's not expensive, but it does make you actually utilize the resource. And if you are not careful with your focus spending, you can find yourself in a situation where Wildfire Bomb is, I guess you can be out of focus and not be able to press Wildfire, but it's fairly cheap and it actually makes the focus building and spending just a little bit nicer. They also attach the focus cost to Flank and Strike. So this ability, instead of giving you focus, now it spends focus. It still does a ton of damage, and rather than Flank and Strike is going to play into Tip of the Spear better, as it grants you 2 stacks of Tip of the Spear when you use it. Except right now, it seems to spend that stack as soon as you use Flank and Strike, so your mid-air Flank and Strike consumes it. I am not sure if it's supposed to do that, but at least they're adding new ways for you to be able to interact with your and pet abilities to play into Tip of the Spear, which is a good change. And besides this, they've adjusted a couple of talents so they function a little bit differently for survival now, which I think makes the playstyle feel even better, especially in dungeon content. For example, if you're looking for even more AoE damage, then if you were to buff the ability of Flank and Strike with Exposed Flank, this ability now causes Flank and Strike to strike 2 additional nearby targets at 100% effectiveness, and the ability is generally quite bursty, so that cleave is nice. You also expose the weakness of your enemy's defenses, causing your Kill Commands to hit 2 nearby enemies for 10 seconds, and with the change that it did for the focus generation of Survival Hunter, this cleave Kill Command plays a little bit better into the overall playstyle. So now when you use Flank and Strike, if you Kill Command, you'll be able to now cleave with your Kill Commands onto nearby targets. You'll notice that Kill Command cleaves, however, do not generate you additional focus, so this isn't necessarily a way for you to be able to get too much focus, but the cleave damage is really nice. It's more of a way to add more interactivity for Kill Command, but if this ability generated way too much focus, I think you would go back to that situation where now you're again swimming in too much resources, can't spend it fast enough, and it just kind of feels terrible in terms of just being able to be I guess, efficient with the resource generation and spending. So I think they wanted to make sure that you don't end up going back to generating or over-generating too much focus. But it feels really good to overall add this ability as part of some of the other tools such as Merciless Blows, where you can have other abilities also cleave multiple targets. They've also buffed up the explosive playstyle of your survival hunter, which basically makes your spec more of a fire damage spec. As you can see, wildfire bomb and explosive shot did a lot of damage. That's because there's a bit more interaction between both of these abilities. Like, you're probably going to be closer to a fire mage as a survival hunter when you think about it, because of how much fire damage you're going to be doing in dungeons. But anyway, there's now some changes to talents such as Grenade Juggler. Wildfire bomb deals 5% increased damage, and this is a bonus, has a 25% chance to also cast explosive shot at your target at 100% effectiveness. Explosive shot reduces the cooldown of wildfire bomb by 2 seconds, so now you have a little bit more of this kind of a play on with the two abilities. So now as you throw grenades, there's a chance you can apply explosive shot onto the target too. And as you explosive shot, you get to reduce the cooldown of your grenades, which is fantastic. It plays super well together. And if you go for a big bombardier type of playstyle, you get so many of these procs back to back. It is kind of hilarious, actually. Just a lot of explosions. And it just really leans into that explosive grenadier playstyle survival, which I'm glad that they're really leaning into. The talents such as bombardier, by the way, whenever you cast coordinated assault, you gain 2 charges of wildfire bomb. But when coordinated assault ends, your next 2 explosive shots have the cooldown reduced by 100%, and the focus cost reduced by 100%, which allows you to unleash even more grenades and explosive shots all at the same time, which is so strong together when you pair it together with the minute CD reduction with symbiotic adrenaline. I mean, a coordinated assault becomes a minute CD that allows you to unleash a bunch of explosives with a bunch of bombs all together. It's also added together with Wildfire Infusion, where Kill Command helps reduce the cooldown of wildfire bombs, which you get to use more regularly, as well as Butchery together with Frenzy Strikes, which allows you to regain abilities such as Wildfire Bomb, but also reduce the cooldown of Flanking Strike to add a little bit of AoE together. So it kind of, you have all these abilities that kind of blend together into this big AoE cluster, and it's really strong all together. You do have to now track your focus a little bit more evenly right now though, as with all these changes. And as long as you're making sure to prioritize Kill Command, like, you almost never run out of focus, but there's a little bit more mechanical gameplay to it, and I like that kind of a change. I think keeping that kind of like a skill capability on Survival Hunter of managing focus efficiently, like, good players are going to be able to manage focus, they're never going to run out of focus, they're going to be able to get more value, versus a newer player who doesn't really know how to manage it and is going to run out of it, and it's not going to deal as much damage. I like that there's a little bit of this like skill expression that is still available for the spec of survival, because now we could also augment it with Alpha Predator, for example. If you need more Kill Command charges, now they can give you a little bit more focus value. Things such as Tremors of Engagement become a little bit more interesting, because finding those windows to back away and harpoon in while you're grenading, while you're exploding from a distance, doesn't feel like losing out on value. And overall, I kind of like this change in general and the cleaves that it provides. I tried it out with Sentinel, but I am really excited to give Pack Leader a go, because those Kill Command cleaves I think could be very powerful in the long term, as long as they fix this talent here, because Furious Assault was really bugged last week. And overall, the Survival Hunter changes feel amazing to play with. It's a lot more explosive, it's a lot more fire damage than I expected. So to say that Survival Hunter is actually one of the hardest hitting fire classes in the game is weird, but at the same time true. Overall, this felt awesome inside of a dungeon setting, at least when it comes to, you know, us making our way and cheesing our way into a Mythic Plus when we're not supposed to. But from that being said, in AoE, this feels fantastic. The nerfs to Sentinel, I don't even mind. That's just part of them trying to tune the hero specs to be a little bit more even to one another, which I perfectly get. Some of you guys are probably not going to be happy about it, because that's really what Sentinel had going for it, is insane amount of damage. But maybe this will give more players an opportunity to test out the Pack Leader and some of its talents and some of its abilities and interactions, because there's a lot of cool stuff there that is mechanically different, that is gonna get you to play different type of builds and different type of play styles, and really adjust it and lean heavily into that pet. And the pet cleaves become more important, kill commands become more important, and you may end up actually just creating a slightly different build with a bigger pet focus. Overall though, Survival has been a fantastic spec, definitely worth checking out if you're on the beta, or even if you are on PTR. I think it's worth hopping on and just seeing how the spec is evolving and changing, because a lot of the changes that we've seen so far in the beta, you can actually test on PTR yourself, minus the hero talents, but it's still plenty to explore for so many players, and I think it's definitely worth your time. Otherwise, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the Survival? Do you think it's still going to be a meme spec going forward in the War Within, or do you think some of these changes are in enough to make it like a viable, strong melee. The one you may actually even consider playing going forward. I know that there's not a lot of survival hunters out there, but I'm just going to do my very best on my end to try to convince you guys otherwise. I think it may be worth investing into Survival Hunter going forward. The changes we've seen so far have been amazing. So far, Hunter has been picking up W's ever since it started getting an actual proper good revamp in the War Within. I am a huge fan of the way that this spec plays right now, and the interactions have been awesome and exciting to experiment with. But I honestly want to hear your guys' thoughts. I'm excited for it, but are you, from everything you've been able to see so far? And hopefully my footage kind of shows you a little bit kind of how it plays, how it works from the dungeons and the AoE damage you're able to do, and kind of gives you an idea of how it may end up playing. But I still want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about survival, and if you think it might be a spec worth exploring at some point in the future, at least for the War Within expansion. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.